Let me be clear up front, I wanted to enjoy this film. I don't get out of bed in the morning and yearn to be disappointed by a medium I love, especially when the film in question is a sequel to a phenomenal trilogy. We ignore the fourth film in our house. But unfortunately, I was both disappointed and infuriated by Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. After a very enjoyable, if kinda done before, given we've seen Indy fight Nazis already, 20-minute set piece during World War II, we get Jake Jones, another Lucasfilm old man, reduced to despair and devoid of any of the spark of life which we loved about him in the past. He's outshone by the vapid and greedy Helena Shaw, who can do everything better than Indiana except endear herself to an audience.
Not a great plan.
The opening introduces us to the Dial and Mads Mikkelsen as Jurgen Voller. He's underused in the extreme, but we'll get to that. The opening is fun stuff, and the whole sequence of Indy escaping death is well made. If the entire movie had retained this energy, then it could have worked. But, no matter how you cut it, Harrison Ford is an old man, and this stuff is a young man's game. I'm reminded of Cary Grant retiring at 62 so that he could raise his daughter and avoid being an old crone on screen. Cary made the right choice. Harrison has not. Perhaps Dial of Destiny would have been a better film if they'd used a de-aged Indy throughout and a stunt double for the big action scene. In fact, maybe they should have done that with Star Wars too. Heroic young Indy is fun to watch, in spite of the CGI, but it is a real shame that after that we then get the biggest go fuck yourself since Jake Skywalker. Again, thanks to Lucasfilm. I'm repeating myself, aren't I?
Fucking hilarious!
Indy and his partner Baz retrieve half of Archimedes' dial and escape a moving train just before it crashes after much hoopla and fighting, and that's all well and good. A sequence where an anti-aircraft gun ratchets off shots into the train itself is well done, and I was genuinely hooked such that I forgot to take notes. The problems start as soon as we move forward in time. Unsurprisingly, the writers don't know how to honour the elderly and the wisdom they've accrued through life, so old Indy is worthless. As you may recall from Raiders, Indy is a beloved teacher in a classroom full of adoring students. Well, now his students don't care at all and his goddaughter knows everything. Never mind that a young person literally couldn't have read as much as an erudite older man, but whatever, who cares, she's better, deal with it. Worse still, Indy's son Mutt died in Nam and his wife divorced him. Wowee. Mangold made Ford vs Ferrari. Mangold made Ford vs Ferrari. Just remember that. Just remember that. Don't forget that. They even have Indy as the curmudgeonly old man saying, "Turn down the music," to hippies. Seriously, fuck off. Fuck off and die. Mangold made Ford vs Ferrari. Mangold made Ford vs Ferrari. Mangold made Ford vs Ferrari. I think this is a symptom of people who just hate boomers and think older white men are scum. Because after all you really needed to do was make Indy extremely successful and influential in his old age. Give him a final adventure that still burns in his soul, such as finding the other half of this dial. Perhaps he needs some help, and so he enlists his goddaughter, who has established herself as an archaeologist in a specific area Indy doesn't have knowledge in, and boom! You've respected the character and brought someone in who could replace him to continue the franchise along. It's not that hard to introduce a young character while still respecting the old. Helena weasels her way into Indy's life by acting like a friend, but then she betrays him, steals the half of the dial he has, and leaves him for dead.
Say that again? What? What the hell are you talking about?
Yes, I'm serious. And so the film devolves into numerous set pieces you'd expect from an Indy film, except every time they give him a moment of glory, it is then stolen away so that Helena comes out on top. It's obvious that the plan here is to replace Indiana Jones for Helena Shaw, but they don't know how to do it. Rooster from Top Gun Maverick could easily have his own standalone film now because he was introduced and set up effectively without ever needing to shit on Maverick.
No way!
How hard is that to understand?
I don't know.
I mean, really, all you have to do is respect the characters. Phoebe Waller Bridge is also extremely lame. She's obviously a flavor of the month in Hollywood, but she has none of the abilities necessary to become a big star. She acts exactly like she did in Fleabag, even though her character is a woman in the 60s, not 2000s. So, maybe try acting, building a genuine character through hard work, instead of just performing. The only highlight in this opening hour of the film is the joy and sorrow on Ford's face when Helena offers to drink with him. It's heartbreaking, and that one shot goes to show exactly why he is a movie star. He can convey so much with his eyes and his body, and it hits the audience right in the gut. Waller is still around in the 60s, somehow, in spite of being hit in the face on a moving train and knocked off into a woods, but whatever, don't talk about it. And anyway, he helped put America on the moon, and he's built a small Nazi group who are working with him to get the dial. Cool. They murder some of Indy's colleagues, and Indy is framed, and so that's a reason that he needs to find Shaw, retrieve the dial, and he thinks somehow that will exonerate him. It wouldn't, but you're not expected to ask questions like, how exactly would that help? Off he goes to Tangier and the Aegean Sea and Italy and blah blah blah. Seriously, read the Wikipedia page if you actually care. This movie fucking sucks. Here are the facts. It sucks that Indy didn't lead the adventure. Lucasfilm really don't understand how to make something which honors the past and sets up the future. Phoebe Waller Bridge can't run to save her life. She looks very awkward, and at times it's obvious they use a stunt double just for her to run, so they really shouldn't make her do action. Mangold is nowhere near Spielberg's level as a director. Part of Spielberg's strengths are his exquisite blocking, which made every scene, even exposition-heavy ones, a joy to behold. This would often take the form of one-ers with camera movement to create new compositions. Mangold does far more shot-reverse shot than Spielberg ever did, and this affects the strength of the film. Seriously, compare any dialogue scene from the first 3 films where characters are standing in one location and then watch what Mangold does. His work is far less dynamic, and it makes his film feel stale. The fuckers behind this fucking script wrote such a fucking bad script that they deserve to be fucking insulted for it. There were ideas which could have worked, and sometimes they were well executed, but ultimately it is ruined by a so-so at best, downright offensive at worst screenplay. It was a good idea to show how America used Nazi scientists to further their own goals, and how these men could very well have still been pushing their own agenda on US soil. But that doesn't amount to anything at all in the film. It's not there to show how Indiana must work alone because he can't trust anyone, even his own government. It's just a moment. The flashback to Baz's obsession with Archimedes' dial was good, but it falls apart when Indy is all about science, even though he literally witnessed this. Digital doesn't look as nice as film. It's just a fact. It really doesn't work. The car chase through Tangiers is well made and entertaining, though again they must neuter Indy at some point so Shaw can shine, and they do just that. Helena gives us a critical theory monologue on Indiana Jones and the nature of archaeology, because everyone knows you want to go to an Indiana Jones film to get a lecture.
Not a great plan.
The movie is boring, and by the midpoint of the second act, I kept thinking, when is this going to end? I don't care, just make it stop. I'm literally only here because I made this YouTube channel. Helena Shaw is unbearable. Even when Indy is nice to her, she acts like a cunt. How the writers thought that was a good idea is beyond me. You should at least make her likable so we'll want to check out the next film, right?
Right.
Bridge can do quirky shit, or she can play a side character in a big film, but she is incapable of being the lead in a mainstream film. And hopefully she goes back to niche work moving forward, because she fucking sucks. Wait, what? She's doing Tomb Raider? I personally hope that they make another film with Shaw just so we can watch it flop. Yes, I'm petty. The Nazis get the jump on Indy and Shaw, then they, for reasons I truly cannot understand, refuse to shoot them. This happens multiple times. At one point they have a tablet which would lead us to the other half of the dial, but it's written in a language Indy and Shaw can read. So the Nazis keep them alive. But hear me out. This might seem crazy, but hear me out. Shoot them, and then go find another specialist in this area. What's the rush if you think you've got yourself a time machine and these are literally the only people threatening your plans? The movie even gives us a mean Europeans ridiculing the brown kid scene. And seriously, fuck off. Try being white in a black or brown community. Trust me, it's harder the other way around. Mangold made Ford vs Ferrari, Mangold made Ford vs Ferrari, Mangold made Ford vs I don't care, he's a fucking cunt. They made Indy useless when all was said and done, just so they could make Helena cool. Indy ends up shot and wanting to stay in the past and die, but Helena knocks him out and brings him back. So unceremonious, so disrespectful. We then get a ham-fisted reunion with Marion, and the film ends. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is what happens when you take incompetent people and give them an impossible task. catch lightning in a bottle. Indie is indie because Harrison Ford is a star. Spielberg and Lucas are goats because they're a part of the small minority in every generation who changed their chosen field forever. You can't recreate that with a spreadsheet and hope. Mangold will never be Spielberg. Bridge will never be Ford.
No way!
Every other indie film came in right on or just shy of the 2-hour mark. Indiana Bones, like the shuffling zombie it is, clocks in at 157 minutes. Why? Because it isn't an indie film. It's a soft introduction to the adventures of Helena Shaw. God, I never should have fallen in love with movies.
Take him home! Just get him the hell out of here! Go home, Jake. I'm doing you a favor. Come on, Jake.
Forget it, Jake. It's Chinatown.
Indiana Bones had a $295 million budget before advertising, and yet it looks like shit. Why? Reshoots. Archimedes created the dial to get people to come back to help the Greeks win the war, but wait, he doesn't ever provide any explanation prior to using the darn thing to indicate this is what he wants, so he just created a big maze to follow, with the discovery being that, he wants them to save everyone? This movie is horrible, and you're a fool if you think it's worthwhile. Yes, indie films are inspired by B-movies and adventure serials, but that doesn't mean you just throw shit at a wall and call it a day. There was still a thought process behind the fantastical moments, which helps ensure it holds up to scrutiny. For instance, look into just how much research George Lucas put into proving that Indy could survive a nuke by sitting in a lead fridge for Crystal Skull. I'm serious? Look it up. A stupid scene like that had genuine effort put into it. This film, on the other hand, has none of that. No one was expecting perfection, but it would have been nice if they tried for competent and inoffensive. Thanks for listening. Fuck Lucasfilm.